Hello and welcome to Game Soup. It's a game design podcast where we throw ideas in a pot and see what's cooking. I'm cult classic Kayla Dice, and I'm joined by the award-winning game designer
Chloe Montgomery. You mixed it up.
Yeah, two award winners on the post. No, the Levante Papers, for those who haven't heard, was a recent winner at the awards.
The least SEO-friendly award show in the world.
I had someone say, though, if you type in the awards TTRPGs, it is the first that comes up, like, before Ennies or stuff. So I guess it has maybe nailed that. It's nice.
It does come up, yes.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I did, like, watch back the stream and see what the judges said about the game and, well, the book, and it was very nice. Do you feel proud?
I do feel proud. It feels like it not got as much, of an audience than I expected it would be. It's a slow burner, but, I'm glad to see that it has, people have taken to it. So, yeah.
Yeah. How have you been other than winning awards, Chloe?
I'm good. I've settled into my new job. I no longer sell books and sweeties. I now sell sweeties and cinema tickets. So,
yeah, a change in media. Oh, we lost a recording last week. I realised we should explain that at the top of the episode. I just fully lost it.
We did a really good episode, and then my file didn't save. So,
I think like the back like 20 minutes of that episode are very good. I think I got too real at the start.
I've kind of memory hold a lot of what you said, so
that's fair. I do think I often get too real on this podcast. Without going into what was on the recorded thing, I was talking about how I might look at restarting my Patreon next year, for just a mix of reasons. But I was asking any listeners if they were subscribed to any Patreons about TTRPGs that they really like, if they'd feel like messaging me on either social media or on Discord, saying like what they enjoy about those patrons, because that's some market research for me. Otherwise, I've been tired. I went to a chronic pain group that's in my area, which is nice.
Is that where they just hit you with hammers and, make you be in pain?
No, that's a different kind of group. Which, if anyone knows about, like, any local ones of them in London, like, also message me on any social media or Discord. No, it's like a chronic pain, a women and non-binary chronic pain support group. Yeah, I just like, if I can do it without having to leave South East London. No, it's a support group, which is nice. I have, so I might be sort of doing that a bit more. At the time of recording, we're about to enter the last week of the Transgender Deathmatch Legend 2 backer kit, so I don't even thinking much about that other than like posting about it.
Fucking sort your life out.
Sort your life out. Do we want to go? Do we have you? We both sent weird ideas or just name ideas, right? Do we want to go into one of them?
Yeah. Okay. So yesterday I saw a TikTok of what seemed to be the ending of I Saw the TV Glow. So woohoo! Had the film spoiled for me before I had a chance to see it because it didn't seem to be on any cinemas over here. But
it was on your small independent one, though, wasn't it?
I don't fucking know. It was on like once showing a week. So
because I remember we almost saw it together, but we ended up not doing that. I also have still not seen it.
Yeah.
Basically, every time I've had an opportunity to see it, this is gonna sound like just because I know it's a sad film specifically, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to see this and then have to be around friends, because I've been in a weird state when I've had opportunities to see it, so I've just been a bit in my own head about my own feelings. But you saw the end of it and then messaged me a game idea.
Yeah, it's mostly just a title. It's called There Is a Girl in This RPG, open brackets, and that girl is you. I think it's a game where we somehow incept the idea that you are actually a girl into an RPG. I don't know who the target audience is for this game, other than people who already have this girl inside of them.
Well, that maybe raises an interesting thing I might come back to. I was going to say, do you know Jack Blair's game? I think it's just a game for procrastinating your gender crisis.
No, I haven't heard of that.
It's fun. I think I've read it. It's you set up a Jenga tower just somewhere out of the way enough that you can leave it there for like. It's a more sort of like life thing. Anytime you have a thought that gives you a bit of a gender feeling, you remove a Jenga tower, and then when it falls over, it's sort of like. So what's the picture now? It's all together.
If not, reset up the Jenga tower.
Yeah. And then this thing,
like
because like. Yeah, that's a lyric game. That's very playable, but it is less a role-playing game and more like a... It's almost like using the tools of tabletop games for the activity of... For the, like, intellectual exercise of journaling without journaling.
Yeah.
But... Now, what you're saying about target audience is true, because I'm like, I don't know if you're going to get this into the hands of... I'm thinking about one person as the target audience for this game. I'm making it and giving it to them.
There is a girl inside this RPG, and that girl is blank name.
But then I guess like the other thing, like if you were going more sort of modern, like, would you be willing to write a game? Because this is the other question. I was going to ask, would you be willing to play? But even first, I'm just like, would you be willing to write a game which is about like realizing you're trans with the intention of being played by like a trans person who is remembering the moments of realizing? It feels more intense than I'd like to write.
I keep seeing on Blue Sky about, I think it's Logan, something or other's autobiographical RPG. So yeah, I think one version of this game is just, okay, you are now 17. You are thinking about how much you like your friend, and you kind of want to be them. What's that friend's name? Maybe it's just a series of prompts for journaling, but...
Yeah, then I guess, well, actually now I'm talking about, like, oh, if this is a story, like, in spite of us saying you, it's maybe about a character who is gonna girl out. So I'm like, is this a Force Femme game? Are you finally writing the Force Femme game?
I think it's a game that incepts a girl into your brain who slowly takes over your body. See, I
think you've been reading all of the blogs about, like, game design as mind control and going like, oh boy.
I haven't! I don't even know what that is. No, this is largely inspired by a 4chan post about Bridget from Guilty Gear. If you know it, you know it.
I don't know it. Okay, so that's... yeah. This is the thing, I think this is a game that is either is just... Someone definitely could make it. It's a great title for a game. I don't think it's one I could ever write or even conceptualize.
I think it's laid out in Microsoft Paint. Everything's in Comic Sans. The colours are slightly too garish. There's a furry on the front cover, maybe. Or no, it's like a double exposure of a girl laid over a boy.
You know, to some extent, actually, what I wonder if this game could be about, in a sense, more if you're, I guess, doing a journaling thing. Because I know TV Glow is a lot about media. Is it maybe about, like, making the... Ooh, this is an interesting concept, which doesn't apply to my personal experiences at all, but might apply to other people. You know, people who, like, you know, a lot of people, like, one of their signs for stuff was they always made, like, girl characters in TTRPG, in computer role-playing games, more,
yeah.
Like, is what I was thinking, actually. Yeah, that lines up a bit with my experience, but I also... Not always, but sometimes often. Also, I always saw playing computer RPGs as playing a character, like I never really saw that as me playing myself through that, so I don't necessarily think of that in the same way. But what if this is a game about that character from when you were, I don't know, whatever age, entering the real world and confronting presumably either the woman you are, or if you want to play an eggier character, the woman they're not yet. Is that anything?
Game Soup Shocker. Kayla makes a game about media coming to life.
Fuck! That's not what TV Glow is, but like that, I don't know, that thing, it does feel like it could be about a relationship with like games where you have played a girl and what those meant to you. Okay, so leaving this idea behind, I sent you something which I want to slightly rephrase. It's fun because it's a title that I think could be a Game Soup prompt or also easily be a Podcast Minds prompt. Which is just a guide to podcasting spells.
It's a sequel to Ritual Magic for Besties, where the besties have started a podcast. And
I feel at that point, it's like, you know, Ritual Magic for Besties is for the girls and the gays. A guide to podcasting spells is for the white men in your life.
There's a picture of Joe Rogan on the front. He has a little witch's hat on.
No, it's a game about people who are like, we should start a podcast because like just the way we talk is so interesting.
But it's like witches around a cauldron.
or it's
like
in some way about
speaking
like,
in rhyming couplets and saying like really feminicious shit. I just think like there's an audience for that somewhere, right?
Yeah, is this a game about making a podcast and being a witch or a wizard or whatever? Or is this about making magic podcasts?
I feel like podcasts as spells is kind of more fun. Because my brain keeps flashing up the Eusebia's Bed and Breakfast chapter where it's called Eusebia Cast a Spell. And there's like this big list of stuff you have to do for the spell, like bringing bits up from elsewhere in the game and like ripping bits up. I think for podcasting a spell, you need to either take bits from other podcasts and like edit them in and like try to spell out your spell using like audio clips, or
I've maybe got a fun idea on that note when you're talking about like lists and stuff. What if this is almost semi-LARPy? I think you set up to record a podcast in whatever way you would do that. So this game can work in person around like one mic, or like we're doing now, virtually. You make characters like ahead of time, or like, you know, in the setup for the game. And then you like get a series of your objectives for what you want this podcasted spell to be, which are different and secret from the other player's objectives. And then you have like a how long you're recording for. Be like, okay, we're gonna go for 2 hours. And in that time, you're trying to guide conversations and stuff to get something in the podcast that counts as an ingredient for your spell, like an argument or someone flubbing a word or stuff like that. But then it's also like about keeping up this in-character, you know, oh yeah, we're doing our podcast, trying to do it, and then at a point of recording or by the end, it's like, oh, who got enough of their objectives to make the spell? That determines what like the podcast does, or something else about like I think maybe you have more set objectives throughout the thing, or maybe it's like maybe all the podcast episodes are about casting a spell. And you have the idea of what the spell is, but, like, your individual goals are about getting control over it, and it's a bit PvP, because I don't think you're cosplaying as a nice friends chatting podcast. You're maybe playing one that is a bit combative. At least very roasty. I think that could be fun.
Yeah, that could be fun, yeah. I think there's a bit in the back of the book where it's like, and now go listen to another podcast episode and try to work out what spell they were casting. Yeah,
I do think there's a fact that I do think you record this because I think sometimes there's maybe an argument of, like, who got their ingredients first, or who initiated something. And so, like, I do think there's maybe a sort of spell control adjudication thing where you might, like, have to listen back to check the recording. I think this isn't themed like witches. I think this is themed like, you know, something scare quotes, like satanic, because it's also a bit of sort of like backmasking and stuff. Maybe this is also like a game like Isabas and other things where maybe instead of character creation you actually have like pre-written characters. So it's like, oh yeah, you're playing the guy who's the shock jock, or you're playing the guy who is like the fucking instigator, or you're playing the someone who is someone, like, you have sort of like set roles and also your own objectives, maybe. Or maybe it's like roles with pick lists.
Yeah, like having specific character, like certainly like character creation, like a proper guide rather than just like sort of improving it would be good. I think having the pre-generated characters would be fun, because then you could, like, if people actually posted these episodes, you'd be like, oh yeah, they're playing Johnny Altright, and
yeah, I think also like
you could Johnny Altright.
You could get very silly with also character types, like you could have it if we're making this. I guess it depends, like, is this a game set in mostly a real world where magic is secret and this is not an explicitly fantastical podcast? Or are you doing, like, yeah, this is set in, like, I could literally set it in this world of Psycho Dungeon and be like, yeah, my podcast co-host, this is Wolfman Jack, literal werewolf here. And then you just make some fun. Really, like... I feel that's more fun, and that feels like a benefit. I also feel this is just me thinking in a more sort of like art project way or whatever. Because I definitely could see the enjoyment of saying like, oh, here's a podcast feed for the game. If you submit me your episodes, like, you know, I'm not going to edit them or anything, but I will listen through them. Here's some, if you want like some opening music or whatever, I can stick it on. Like, here's the PDF, the MP3 files for you to do it. And I'll upload the episodes in this thing, and maybe sometimes do a like, oh, here's what some people did that was cool. That's more just like an art project, like... Or it's a fun way of supporting a game that is, yeah. It's not quite organised play, but it's fun. I'm compelled enough by this game, I could see myself making it.
I could see this in a future on like a con table, next, like wrapped up in string with Magic for Besties. As like a bundle. Yeah.
I feel like I'm very... I was going to say... Like, I feel like I'm very compelled by a lot of, like, contemporary or, like, urban fantasy adjacent stuff. Even though I've necessarily never been big into what has been labelled as explicit urban fantasy. I think for me the answer is, like, I really loved the comic book series Phonogram. And I think to some extent that is kind of, like, a codex for a lot of the setting stuff I do.
Yeah.
I feel this game is solid enough, and it might exist, who knows, sometime next year. I'm a bit into it. It's arty, which feels fun for me. I'm just gonna check, because we either might need to go to a Randy, or we may have had some other things we sent.
I mean, what's the name of the podcast game?
Oh, I think it's a guide to podcasting spells. I like the pun of podcasting spells.
Yeah.
Oh, I had one other idea that was a sort of like loose mechanic. Could you help me figure out what the game would be? Or we can go to a random word generator.
Well, what was the mechanic?
So in the way I had out of the fold, it's like you build a poker hand and every card sort of like, you know, loosely maps to these different prompts. The idea I had here is like, oh, you could do like 52 card prompts that map to like a song prompt, like something like, oh, a song you've danced to, a song that's in your recent on repeats, a song from the first band you saw live or whatever. And like, so then you get maybe something about, like, playing cards and you're either building a playlist or using a song for Magic or something. I don't know. I told you it was very half-formed. Is it half-formed
really
enough that we're at 22 minutes? Do you want to go to the... What was that?
You really are just phonogram pilled, aren't you?
There's a documentary, or not even a documentary, it's like a series of video essays, like an essay film, called Lynch Oz, which is 5 essays by 5 different people. It's got, like, David Lowery, who did The Green Knight, and John Waters, who is John Waters. And it was all about them looking at Lynch's work through the thing of The Wizard of Oz, like comparisons to how The Wizard of Oz informed it. And I remember I once had a conversation with someone where I was like, what would the Lynch Oz about you be? And I am aware, for me, the answer is absolutely you do phonogram dice. Already at a formative age, what can you say? Do you want to riff on this with me, or do you want to go to the random word generator?
I think a playlist of music as... Are they prompts? Are they, like, actions in the game?
What actually could be a fun idea... Here I'm thinking a bit about Rhythm Drive. Maybe remove the poker hand element here, because I think that does complicate it. You always have song prompts... and you are just playing cards as your moves. And it's like, okay, this corresponds to this prompt. You have to pick a song. And, like, maybe if it is Magic, it's like, okay, pick out, like, a key lyric from this song while you listen to it, and that's power you can draw into this scene in some way.
I was going to say, maybe it's just like, oh, it's normal Texas Hold'em poker, but while a rock song is playing, aces, like, 2s are high or some bullshit. Like, I don't know, it makes up new rules. But while you were talking, I did think it's just a Psycho Dungeon, like, scenario or dungeon adventure where you have this playlist going, and depending on the music that's playing, it changes the dungeon around you.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, you build this... Maybe that's actually a fun way. It's like a deck of cards corresponding to song prompts, and you build a point crawl out of that. And yeah, that's like a Psycho Dungeon setting, if I did a musical supplement or whatever.
And it's like a 52-room mega dungeon.
I did have actually another random idea, which could be silly. Maybe this is one I'll just explain this game and I'm like, we could think about that, and then... Actually, no, I'm going to save this for next week, but I will just say I had an idea relating to hacking a tarot card game, like the rules of that. That thing I was going to say before you cut me out of here or whatever. We're both going to be at Dragon Meet at the end of the month, which is coming up soon.
Far too soon. Next weekend, by the time this comes out.
You are going to be in the Lower Trade Hall with the UK Indie League. What kind of stuff are you going to have there?
We're looking at getting a reprint of Goblin Country sorted out. We will have Levante Papers, the awards-winning Levante Papers. Got our copies of Picnic Dungeon. I'm sure we can rustle something else up if you ask nicely.
Yeah, you've probably got some tournament
got the rest
left
of the,
or whatever, or are you just deciding how much you
under
take?
your bed. We're there with the Indie League, so there'll be plenty of good stuff. I think Josh might have some Lovecraft-esque 2E stuff. Yeah, it's definitely worth a look. I always end up coming to these cons and being like, what the fuck? I did not know this came out. Like, about the people I'm working with. So...
Yeah. I am going to be on the upper trade hall, so the game Soup Girlies are once again separated by a staircase. I'm going to be on the upper trade hall on the 12 Pins Press booth, is what it's like named under, with Laurie O'Connell, Yanan, and the Ecomorphos team. I'm going to have Terminal, now in box set form. Psycho Dungeon, Psycho Dungeon's little sister to embrace a swamp creature. And as well as that, I'm going to have some zines like Out of the Fold, Ritual Magic for Besties, which we've talked about, and I guess now might get like an older brother game. Because definitely if it's a podcaster, it's... as well as like... some solo games. I'm going to have like 4 zines. I haven't entirely settled on what my full limit is. You can talk to me about Transgender Deathmatch Legend 2, and I might have the pre-order page open then, but like... I'd rather you backed it now if you're listening to this. Like, come on. Don't talk to me 3 days after the thing about it if you are listening to this. I'll talk about it to people who didn't know about it and get led. But, like, if you're listening, don't go, oh, I brought, like... Just don't mention, like... It's fine.
I like your podcast, but not enough to support you financially.
I don't need you to support me, but I'm also just like, if you're listening to this now, I'd rather you backed the game now, rather than talk to me about a pre-order store at Dragomeet, because you probably follow me on social media and you'll see that pre-order store link there. If you're at Dragomeet and you listen to this, I'd rather you talk to me about the things I have on offer. Though also, if you do just want to come by to say hi, say I enjoy the podcast, that's also fine. You're not... If you engage me in a conversation, you don't need to buy something at the end. I'm not saying that. I'd like it. You can just say hi. But I'm just saying, if you already know about Transgender Deathmatch Legend, talk to me about it at a different time than at the con, probably.
If you say
Chloe,
you listen to Game Soup, I'll give you a free sticker. Thank you for listening to Game Soup.
For listening to Game Soup.